There is an old story about the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Each morning, before he met his generals, settled disputes, or made decisions that could affect millions of people, he took a few quiet moments to prepare his own mind. In a notebook that no one else was meant to read, he reminded himself that before the day was over, he would meet people who were selfish, impatient, dishonest, arrogant, and ungrateful. He did not write these words because he disliked humanity. He wrote them because he understood it. If you expect every person to be kind, every plan to succeed, and every day to unfold exactly as you hope, disappointment becomes inevitable. But if you accept that life will always contain difficulties, then every moment of peace becomes a gift instead of a surprise. Those private notes eventually became Meditations, one of the greatest philosophical books ever written. Marcus Aurelius never intended to teach the world. He was simply trying to become a better man. He was not alone. Across ancient Rome, philosophers like Seneca and Epictetus searched for answers to questions that still trouble us today. How do we remain calm when life feels unfair? How do we stop worrying about things we cannot control? How do we find happiness without constantly chasing more? Although nearly 2,000 years separate us from them, the problems they wrote about feel strangely familiar. We may have smartphones instead of scrolls and skyscrapers instead of marble temples, but our minds still wrestle with fear, comparison, frustration, and uncertainty. That is why their wisdom continues to endure. The Roman philosophers believed that peace was never something waiting at the end of success. It was something we could practice every single day. These are 4 of their greatest secrets and why they remain just as powerful today. The first secret is that the only thing you truly control is yourself. This was one of the central teachings of Epictetus, who began life as a slave. He owned almost nothing, yet he believed there was one treasure no one could ever steal: the freedom to choose your response. He wrote, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Think about how often a single unpleasant comment can ruin an entire day, or how a delayed train, a difficult coworker, or unexpected bad news can leave us feeling powerless. We naturally believe these events are responsible for our unhappiness. But the Roman philosophers saw something deeper. Between what happens and how we respond, there is a small space. Inside that space lies our freedom. We cannot stop people from being rude. We cannot prevent every disappointment. We cannot control the weather, the economy, or the opinions of strangers. But we can decide whether those things will control us. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, courage instead of fear, or kindness instead of resentment, you strengthen the part of yourself that no circumstance can destroy. The greatest victory, they believed, is not conquering another person. It is learning to govern your own mind. The second secret is that time is more valuable than wealth. Seneca noticed something curious about human nature. People carefully protect their money. They compare prices, save for the future, and worry about financial loss. Yet they often spend their time as though it has no value at all. Hours disappear scrolling through endless entertainment. Entire afternoons are consumed by worrying about problems that never happen. Years pass while waiting for the perfect opportunity to begin living the life we truly want. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." These words are not meant to make us anxious. They are meant to remind us that every ordinary day is extraordinary, simply because it will never come again. The sunrise you ignored this morning has never existed before and never will again. The conversation you have with a loved one today can never be repeated in exactly the same way. The Roman philosophers believed that remembering life's limits makes each moment more precious. When you realize your time is limited, you become more careful about what deserves your attention and what does not. The third secret is that obstacles are often our greatest teachers. When life becomes difficult, our first instinct is usually to ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Marcus Aurelius asked a different question. "What can this teach me?" He famously wrote, "The obstacle is the way." At first, those words seem impossible. How could hardship possibly become the path forward? The Roman philosophers believed that many of our greatest qualities can only be developed through difficulty. Patience cannot exist without waiting. Courage cannot exist without fear. Forgiveness cannot exist without being hurt. Resilience cannot exist without setbacks. Just as fire becomes brighter when more wood is placed upon it, a strong character often grows through challenges rather than comfort. This does not mean we should seek suffering. It means that when suffering arrives, as it inevitably does, we do not have to believe it has destroyed us. Sometimes the very obstacle standing in your way is quietly shaping the person you are becoming. The fourth secret is that peace disappears when we constantly seek the approval of others. Ancient Rome admired success. It celebrated wealth, influence, military victories, and public recognition. In many ways, very little has changed. Today, instead of standing in crowded marketplaces hoping to impress strangers, many of us carry those strangers in our pockets through social media. We compare our lives to carefully edited images. We measure our worth through likes, followers, promotions, or compliments. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself how temporary all of this really is. The people praising you today will one day be gone. The opinions that seem so important now will soon be forgotten. If your happiness depends on being admired, then your peace will always depend on something you cannot control. The Roman philosophers encouraged a quieter way of living. Do your work with honesty. Keep your promises. Treat people with fairness. Help others whenever you can. Then allow your character, not your reputation, to speak for you. The respect you earn from your own conscience is worth far more than applause from a crowd. Perhaps this is the greatest secret the Roman philosophers left behind. They never promised that life would become easy. Marcus Aurelius still faced wars. Seneca experienced exile and political turmoil. Epictetus endured slavery before becoming a teacher. Their lives were filled with uncertainty, loss, and hardship. Yet they believed peace was still possible. Not because the world became gentle, but because they learned how to remain steady within it. They guarded their character instead of their pride. They treasured time instead of wasting it. They accepted obstacles instead of fearing them. And they stopped allowing the opinions of others to decide their happiness. The Roman Empire eventually faded into history. Its armies disappeared. Its palaces crumbled. Its rulers became names in old books. Yet the quiet wisdom of its philosophers survived. Not because it offered quick success or easy answers, but because it spoke to something timeless inside every human being. Even today, in a world that moves faster than ever, their words invite us to slow down, to look inward, and to remember that the strongest person is not the one who controls the world. It is the one who has learned to master themselves. Perhaps that is the secret they hoped we would never forget. Thank you for watching.